bins. It might sound like a rubbish topic, but it's very important to how our cities, towns and villages run. My name's Tom Harwood and this is GBN Originals. Now, our society runs on certain principles that any civilised society runs on. One of those fundamental expectations is that the streets are not covered in filth. Is that our streets and avenues, our places that we live, work and walk through, aren't steaming with piled up rubbish. And yet, at times of crisis, that's exactly what they are. We all remember back to the winter of discontent in 1979. What the big sign of crisis appeared to be, televised across the news, the bin bags in Trafalgar Square, the rubbish piled high on the streets as a result of strike action, that symbol of a broken Britain. Well, is that returning to our streets? Is that returning to our cities today? One council, Bristol, is among actually many that are considering lessening bin collections. Lessening them not just to fortnightly, as many communities are already suffering, but monthly. Yes, 4 weekly bin collections. Now they say that this is an optimal bin collection rate. The proposal, which is not yet policy in Bristol and some other cities around the country, those proposing it say this is better for the environment and will save anyone money. But I would like to question that. Is it really better for the environment to leave steaming lumps of rubbish out there on the streets, overflowing in the bins for week after week after week after week? 4 long weeks before normal household rubbish is collected. That's the proposal. It's interesting that this is being proposed by a Green Party council. The Green Party is almost automatically associated in the minds of the electorate with perhaps litter picking, with less rubbish, with green rolling fields and pleasant pastures. But wherever we see the Green Party in power, there seem to be some problems with the bins. We only need to look to Brighton, which of course was controlled by the Green Party until they were unceremoniously turfed out of having a majority on that local council after several problems with bins, rubbish being strewn across the streets in Brighton after pay disputes led to bin men striking. Well, it's another Green Council now in Bristol that is proposing this later delay in bin collection.
Us blokes hate talking about a little thinning up top, and many of us settle with that balding look, but that wasn't for me, and that's why I went to Elite Hair, the world's leading hair loss clinic, and now I've had over 4,000 new hairs added to this barnet, and very soon I'm going to be rocking some brand new flowing locks. And you can too! So how does it work? Step 1, I sent the team a set of photos of my head. Step 2, I then spoke to one of the Elite Hair staff who looked through my photo submissions and worked out a treatment plan for me. Step 3, Elite Hair then organised accommodation and the treatment. I was at their state-of-the-art treatment centre in Istanbul, and their incredibly kind staff took me through the process, and before I knew it, I was in surgery. Elite Hair and their leading medical experts have specialised in pain-free treatments using the sleep deep method, and they really mean that. I felt incredibly relaxed the whole time, and I haven't felt any pain since. Check out Elite Hair using the link in the description. When you do, Elite Hair will provide you with a free personalised hair analysis. Then you'll join over 100,000 happy patients. Hit that link and start your hair growth journey like I did today.
It's not going down well with local people. We sent our reporter Jack Carson to the streets of Bristol to find out more. Well, let's go straight to Bristol, where GB News West Midlands reporter Jack Carson is, alongside the Conservative councillor Mark Weston. Jack, what on earth is going on in Bristol?
Well, you mentioned there being more recyclable and also trying to cut down on carbon emissions and save money ultimately are some of the things that the Green Party are saying is leading them to these proposals. We must say they are still proposals. This is a consultation phase. Residents have until the 10th of March to be able to put their voices forward, but you were mentioning one of those choices is black bin collections once every 4 weeks. You can probably see the tower of flats behind me, that tower block. You just imagine the kind of rubbish that all of those people in that residential area create, let alone having their bins only collected once every 4 weeks. That might lead to things like fly tipping. I mean, there's a no fly tipping sign there, and straight under it is some fly tipping. So let's speak to Councillor Mark Weston, councillor for this ward where we are here, and also leader of Bristol Conservatives. I mean, what were your initial feelings around this proposal to possibly have bin collections once every 3 or once every 4 weeks?
First of all, I think it's madness. But let's be clear, I don't think even the Greens are thinking about every 4 weeks. I think this is entirely a smokescreen. What I think they're doing is going to get all of us up in arms going, oh, not 4 weeks, not 4 weeks, when the whole plan all along is 3 weeks. And that's still going to be bad enough. The thing is, when you're a taxpayer, you have a contract, don't you? Really? You expect basic services from the council. You want the grass mowed, you want the streets repaired, and you want your rubbish collected. And you want that done reasonably. Now, at the moment, it's collected every 2 weeks, and the service isn't great now. Do you really think it's going to be better when you move it to every 3 weeks or 4 weeks? It's not. You're going to have more like this, more fly tipping. And I know that. I leave community litter picks out here in Henry Brentry all the time. I know the waste that gets blown around and all the rest of it. And it's just going to get dumped even more. This is a really bad idea.
That was going to be my next question about the impact of this. We've been speaking to residents, businesses today. There's a real worry, particularly around the hygiene issue of possibly things like sanitary hygiene products in non-recyclable black bin bags, and those wheelie bins, but also as well vermin and the increase of vermin. That's concerns that have said to us today. Do you share those concerns?
I do. I mean, the Greens are sort of saying that they would potentially put in additional things like nappy collections and all the rest of it. But here in Bristol, we have numerous bags that you put out all the time. Often it's said that we file our rubbish, we don't throw it away anymore. And actually, if you're adding additional bins to that, you're just making an already complicated situation even more complicated. And that's before you end up with the idea of things like you get additional vermin and all that for that waste. But really, for me, it's the basic contract. We pay our taxes, we expect a basic level of service, and I expect my bins to be collected every fortnight.
Right, Mark, thank you so much for joining us this morning and giving us your viewpoint. Now, we should just say that Heather Mack, who's the Deputy Council Leader of the Green Party, says that there's been, she says, misunderstandings around these bin collections. She says there have been no decisions currently yet made, and saying they're doing this as part of a consultation to ask people's views on waste and recycling as part of wider plans, they say, to re-evaluate their rubbish and recycling collections.
Shall we speak to Donica McCarthy, the environmentalist? Donica, it's not very dignified, is it, to have your rubbish picked up only once a month if that actually does happen in Bristol? I mean, I'm thinking nappies, female sanitary products. I mean, pretty grim.
Good morning, Emily. Good morning, Tom. This is a hilarious scare story from the Daily Mail, usual rubbish. They're not talking about collecting bins once a month. They're talking about collecting recyclable waste every week. They're talking about collecting food waste every week. They're talking about collecting nappies every week. And what they're saying is that as a result of that, the general waste bins are half empty. And so it makes sense that if to actually save council taxpayers money, the Tory councillor is hilarious. I mean, they're always talking about efficiency and condemning rises in council tax. And then when the Green Party administration is proposing a sensible measure to stop wasting money collecting half-empty non-recyclable bins, they're actually condemning it. You can't have it both ways. You can't condemn waste.
You can't say it's a sensible measure to have once a month bin. Why is it wherever the Green Party is in power? This happened in Brighton as well, with the rubbish piling high on the streets. Why is it always the case that when the environmentalists get in, the environment becomes worse?
Why is it happen that one or two councils that the Green Party focus on, you guys dive in and start condemning it, when actually councils across the UK have actually cut general waste bins because it's a waste of money? 20 councils across the UK, other than the Green Party in Bristol, are already doing this. And Tom and Emily, you talk about tax and efficiency. This should be straight up your street. Do you know how much we're spending on disposing of the huge amount of packaging that supermarkets are pouring into our houses?
Donica, have you seen what happens when the bin men go on strike? What happens? When the bin men go on strike, what happens? You have a huge rise in fly tipping. The area where people live becomes pretty disgusting and grim because there's rubbish everywhere. I'm sorry, you can live in a fantasy world where everyone meticulously separates their rubbish and no one wants to use the black bags. But I'm sorry, many people need to use those bin bags and they need them to go to the dump.
You are so corporate socialists advocating that the homeowners should pay the cost of the waste coming into our houses. It's £486 per household to deal with our waste. And you guys wanted to increase the cost rather than decrease the cost. I thought you were conservatives. Why are you advocating the waste of public money on a service that's not needed? It's insane. You're
there
talking
are
about
better
strike.
ways to reduce costs than leaving people with rotten rubbish for week after week after week after week.
How dare you say rotten rubbish? It's a complete and utter Daily Mail lie. The council is collecting food waste every week.
You think every single household is going to separate their food waste every single time? I try and separate as much waste as I can. I try. But you know what? Sometimes the banana skin goes in the black bin.
If you are throwing your food into the general waste, then you can't complain it's smelly. If you've got a bin to have your food waste, it won't smell. If you want to end up with a smelly bin, Tom, that is your responsibility.
Donica, if only all of us were as perfect as you. Donica McCarthy, thank you very much for putting up.
Wanted to cut costs for homeowners.
You put up
43.
Donica, we put the case very well. We're going to have to leave it there because we've come to the end. So I'm not cutting you off on purpose. It's just because we literally have run out of time and we've already overrun. Donica McCarthy, environmentalist there. He thinks it's a good idea, actually, to reduce these bin collections.
It's a very good sport.
Yeah.
I have to say, I was taken aback by Donica McCarthy there, defending vociferously the idea of bins being collected once every 4 weeks. The idea that there's going to be no food waste in a normal black bin bag, I think, is fairly stretching the imagination. Everyone will ordinarily fill up a kitchen bin, perhaps in the not most particular and most ideal separation of waste. You can't expect every individual to filter out things into all sorts of bins 100% of the time. There will inevitably be horrific smells. There will inevitably be overflowing rubbish. And as someone who likes to entertain, to host in my own home, I just fear that am I going to have to not invite anyone over to my own house other than once every 4 weeks? What if I fill up the bin? What if I have a party? I mean, my goodness me, the list goes on. But what do you make of the proposal to collect your ordinary, regular rubbish just once every 4 weeks? Is this beneficial for the environment? Will this encourage greater recycling and, crucially, save councils some money? Or is this another loony green policy that will only end in tears? Well, my name's been Tom Harwood, and this has been the GBN Original Series. Remember to subscribe for more investigations into things perhaps slightly less rubbish than bins.